Let's call the meeting to order. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the January 27th meeting?
Did do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make
a slight change. At the bottom of the page, bottom of the first page, say costs for the other bond have not yet come in, or a cost has not yet come in.
Oh,
Okay,
How about a cost has not yet come in?
that's fine, okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with that minor correction. Do I have a second?
yeah, have a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have 3 warrants to sign tonight. We have the payroll warrant for $89,530. We have the payroll deduction warrant for $24,127. The vendor warrant for $100,733. I'll make a motion that we accept those warrants and sign them. Do I have a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we're going to move Michelle up on the agenda. Go ahead, Michelle. Festival of the Hills, what do we have?
Festival of the Hills currently has, I believe, $800 being set aside on the town warrant for porta potties. And that went up this past year to $1,100, so we're looking to increase that request to cover the cost of the porta potties for the weekend of the Festival of the Hills.
Okay, and that's for fiscal 215?
2014.
Yes.
For this next one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think that's, yeah, we'll, Tom, you're gonna put that in the budget line, and it'll be approved with the budget.
Yeah, it is in the budget as that now, which we'll be discussing later on.
Okay.
For how much are you?
1,100.
1,100.
1,100.
Is that what the email
okay.
request said? I'm sorry, I couldn't print out the original email.
I thought the current costs were more than that.
No,
I thought they were 12 something.
no.
No?
It's 1,100. I believe the $1,200 was because the bill was combined with the bridge dinner as well, which we are
Oh,
not
okay.
lumping into the Festival of the Hills,
Okay. Beautiful.
I believe.
Okay. Anything else that you have, Michelle?
Tom and I bringing up that other
Sure.
request.
Sure.
We're requesting that on this year's warrant, and another request for $10,000 again for this year to go towards the 250 committee.
Right, okay. Right, yeah. We decided that a couple of years ago.
Well,
that each year we would...
I was talking to Tom, I didn't know if we had to make that plea annually. David Barton, I believe, came to you folks and did it last year, and so I don't remember the formality behind. I knew it was approved last year, but I didn't know if we had to request that formally annually.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's nice to see you every year. So,
Yeah.
you know, not that we have to make it formal, but I think coming in and just saying, hey, not that you have to give us a big report or anything, but you know, we did 10 last year, we're doing 10 this year. And just a sense of like, oh yeah, we really need another 10. So
And I don't know if you guys want to know what we did. I know we're probably going to be asked what we did at the town meeting, but I don't know if you want an account of why we would ask for that.
You can give that to Tom, and he'll put it in the budget document that he has.
Oh, okay.
If you have anything you want to hoot about it, go ahead and, you know, if there's anything exciting you're doing.
We made a small profit last year. We made probably about $2,500. We had to spend $5,300 up front for the Chesbro Challenge, and we spent $2,100 up front for the bridge dinner. Both of those turned a small profit.
Good.
The Chesbro, we bought a lot of materials that will continue on.
Right.
There are things that we can use again that hopefully if we do the Chesbro Challenge again this year, those upfront costs won't be that high because we have surplus t-shirts and surplus the bracelets and the hats and things like that were quite an expense up front.
That was a great event.
Oh, it
Sure, we're
was.
gonna do
It was a
again.
It was
fantastic
a lot of fun,
event.
and all I
Small
request is that
profit,
it's
but
not
great
100
fun.
degrees again.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Boy,
It
it
was
was hot.
It was a very small profit on
yeah,
that.
yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I think
It did cost a
Really-
lot, just up front. So the profit is, was said last year.
Well, lessons
From now
learned.
on,
I mean,
it
the
should be
tent is
more.
$1,000, but if we didn't have
Yeah.
that tent,
Yeah,
we would have been standing out in 100-degree sun.
Yeah, no,
We would have
that
had no
was-
place to go. So
right.
And it
It's
was
an
the beer
expense.
tent. I mean, beer tents are important.
And the porta potties are always a high expense.
Yeah.
And then the upfront cost of the t-shirts was shockingly high because you have your setup fee and we got
Sure.
all the different sizes and
Yeah.
so. And then the bridge dinner was, our only expense on the bridge dinner was the food.
So in your expenses, is there like a life insurance policy on Mike Haley? Because if we, we can't lose him, right? I mean, he's a very important part of this process.
Yeah, it's a good idea. By golly. You're
So,
thinking
so that's
ahead
what we
here.
did for this first year. We have to put more stuff in the fire for this coming year, but we're still trying to work around not having Dave.
Okay, great.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great event,
Yep. Sure is.
and it'll raise more funds as it goes on.
well, hopefully the word has spread.
Oh, yeah.
I think the word got out, and we got good coverage. I think it. I
A,
think
nobody
it-
knows Jack Chesbrough, and B, it was a
Yeah.
hot weekend, so people are like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So now that it made the paper and people kind of know what it's about, hopefully it would attract more people.
Yeah, and
But-
get some advertising in early.
If the field is going down, that would be another one we would have to rethink,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
That would be a little bit easier to redo somewhere else,
Down
like
at
the
the
grammar
school.
school,
Yeah.
Sure.
than the
Absolutely.
festival.
Yeah,
But that is all I have.
Okay.
Those are my
Okay.
2 requests.
very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
Okay.
Michelle.
Thank you very
Thanks for all
much,
your
guys.
good work. You're doing a great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Have a good evening.
You
And
too.
you too.
Thank you.
All right, let me go back to any meetings attended by the select board members since
None.
last meeting?
Nope,
No,
not since last
I haven't been many meetings, okay,
There are a couple this week, though.
yeah. Okay, Tom, you're next.
All right. I'd like to go over a couple of things. First, the budget document, and then the second document I have there, which are potential warrant items for town meeting that are capital items. The document I gave you also has some non-capital items, and of course, any feedback you have on those would be useful as well, but today I just want to go over some of the money articles that
Okay.
I've noted. But first, the budget. I have a document, because we don't have a tax rate yet and don't expect one for another month or so. It's only preliminary, and it shows mainly expenses. I started thinking, I could show a little bit about how the money's divvied up. So the first page shows, in general, public safety, public
Right.
works, and for education, health, and human services, the vast majority of that, only a tiny sliver, is not education.
Right, right.
So clearly, just showing that in graphic form. And a little bit of background on what's been going on. I give a little bit of an update of what's been going on the money items from the May town meeting. Progress is well along in those items, and a list of possible money articles, capital items for this coming May, which I'll go into later. Revenues, again, not particularly well known at this point, though there are some projections out there. So expenses, anything in brackets and italicized is simply unknown at this point. And I go through, there's a chart with some general expenses to show where we generally are. And again, I don't have figures for the technical schools, I don't have figures for the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. These assume the same increase this year as was last year, but I believe the Council of Governments will be going up more than that
It will be.
this year.
Yes.
And I don't know, again, anything about the technical schools. Under general government, there's not a lot of change. There are some items, some changes in the assessor's budget, which show something to do with their reorganization, and they will have a slightly reorganized office next year as well, with a slightly different staffing regimen. Feel free to ask about anything in particular. I did try to provide some narrative for each of the budget items, most of which I got through these select board meetings when we had people coming in, and also just talking with, getting input from people who submitted their budgets. Have a small section on town finances at the end of that. Some insurance, I had a question about insurance fees. They've gone down tremendously because we're not using the Berkshire Insurance Group as an agent anymore. They're still, this year, our agent for our police and fire injured on duty insurance, the BFIS insurance. And I'm not at all sure that's necessarily talking with them this week to see whether or not we can just go directly with them. I believe that's going to be possible.
So let me clarify something. You said our insurance premiums going down because we're not dealing with Berkshire anymore?
There's a line, insurance fees, under town insurance.
Right.
And I believe that's the reason that we haven't expended much in 2014. And we may not have to expend anything in 2015, so I'm not putting anything in there yet.
Okay.
But we do have, and the figures for general liability, that figure is an estimate based on Maya's estimate of the cost increase at 5%. A small decrease in employee benefits, as the treasurer is no longer budgeting for one of each kinds of plans that someone might take. It's probably unnecessary to do that, and so she was able to trim some money off of that, as I believe she explained when she came in here earlier.
Right, yeah.
And backing up a little bit, that jump in the cost for the elections is because of an additional election or two
Yes.
this year? Okay.
Yes, and there's a breakdown for each of those and their costs. I have the narrative above the charts to introduce the charts. So
all right.
if you
I
see a
see.
chart, then the narrative above that is what explains it. I also have a category here, committees with budgets. And Personnel Committee, Parks and Rec, Historical Commission, all have budgets. And this is not true of most of our committees, but some of them do. And they are all requesting level funding. The Festival of the Hills, you can see I had put in $12.50. I'll amend that to $11.50.
Maybe we should leave it at that. Yeah, leave it at 12.
It's
Just in case.
If the price went up that much this past year, it could easily go up half again this year, so that's what this would be. And then a couple, I wanted to set apart the permitting bodies because I think it's important to highlight those that are performing a legal function for the town. So the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, and the Zoning Board of Appeals all also have budgets. And some of this is involved with trainings, I know, in the past. There are some free trainings, and the new schedule is out for the spring if anyone's interested. The Citizen Planner Training Collaborative. But it's important to note that the permitting bodies fulfill a legal function, and it's important to fund them. Again, the FERCog assessment, I don't know what that's going to be at this point. My budget estimate at the end is based on the increase being the same percentage increase it was for the last 2 years, but again, I think it's going to be more than that. I do cover in the narrative for that a number of the services that the COG has provided for us, so we can see what we're getting for what we're paying. For public safety, Chief Wimet was able to bring the budget down a little bit, which is great. And the fire department budget went up only $13 from last year, so that's pretty good as well. Ambulance also is down slightly. They've had some shifts, and the narrative explains that. And our emergency management director has requested level funding.
Well, actually, not quite.
Oh, it's not. No, it went up. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have the figures right, and I didn't change the narrative.
Yeah, and the narrative I'll give you quickly. So, trying to follow suit with the other folks like fire, police, and ambulance, I did actually bring my budget down. It was $3,500. I brought it down $750. Looking at past usage, and then also the fact that supplies was $1,000, and actually, given MEMA and their grants coming, I haven't really needed the supplies, and I think that will continue to get funding from MEMA for supplies for that. So I did bring it down $750, but this year the Board of Health, or actually last year they asked and we forgot to do it, but this year we did do it. So the EAS system, the emergency alert system, costs us $1,500, actually $1,395, but I did $1,500 just in case of the increase next year. So I added that $1,500 to the budget for emergency management, taking it out of the budget from Board of Health. So all told, going up $750, but basically cutting back my expenses because I took that other big one off the Board of Health. So that's the deal there.
So your net is up 750?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, and I'll fix that before I ship this off to the Finance Committee. Dog officer requested a couple $100 more, 100 in mileage and 100 in expenses. And again, I'll have a proposal for an appointment as animal control officer in July, because that's the term the state uses, and there is a new law that says the dog officer is the animal control officer who has other duties, and that's taken care of the way things work out in a practical way. So just a little change in nomenclature there, but I'm trying to introduce it here as well. We're again, oh yeah, and then now Public Works. I've included building maintenance and the tree warden under here, as those are typically Public Works functions. Ron will also be hoping to take over the building maintenance tasks as soon as he can talk about other details with the select board. So tree warden, we're now actually paying, and we'll have a warrant article to pay past year's bills there. Apparently we didn't have him on payroll since he started a year and a half ago or something like that. Highway is up. Superintendent is requesting that funding for that additional staff person who is the laborer now is bringing the department back up to 5 people. But the superintendent feels that this will also avoid the need for 2 summer positions, and he'll only have 1 this summer, so there will be some offset of that cost. So back up to the number it was at before, but slightly less expensive, because this is just a laborer position and not a truck driver laborer position. Also, the spending for materials is up substantially. The superintendent believes that we need to build up some of the gravel roads from where they are now. This is a long-term process, so he will be asking for substantially additional funding for the foreseeable future. Building maintenance expenses are running ahead of schedule. And this seems to be a general increase in costs. especially in outdoor electricity use and propane. So I've added a considerable amount to the outdoor electricity use. This is based on the last month's bill, which of course is going to be more than in the summer because it is winter time. But it was so much more that I want to be sure. We did go over the budget in fiscal year 13 considerably by about $1,000.
Right.
So I don't want that to happen again next year.
Would part of that outdoor electricity be the winter skating rink? Would that raise our outdoor electric bill?
Certainly any of the lighting associated that with that or any of pumping,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
But it's getting used. It's nice to see kids out there, people, adults and kids, out there
Yeah.
skating at
Yeah,
night.
that's a great facility.
It is, it really is nice.
And that brings us to education and health and human services. Again, I don't have, actually I should update this. I do have the figures for Franklin Regional now, and they're on the back page, which is the projected Article 2 for May. And I have the Conway Grammar School. Oh yeah, and I have the figures down below, but I just didn't insert them back back at the top. So the third table under schools is the Franklin assessment. It's up a little under 5%, which is not nearly as much as it was last year, but it's still a substantial rise.
Yep.
Not really appreciably offset by the large percentage decreases in transportation and debt, unfortunately. Board of Health budget that they submitted is down just over $9,000 from last year. There's all sorts of detail in there, and no doubt that will be a future subject of discussion. Council on Aging has requested level funding, and Veteran Services is up just a little bit. It's always a little tricky. Towns are responsible for veterans who settle in them, and my feeling is that since it's an unknown expense at this time, we can budget for what we know we have and are being assessed for, and if there is anything else, that is an appropriate use of reserve funding in case we need to do that.
So just a quick question on Veteran Services. So those are eventually reimbursed by the state, is that correct?
At 70%, I think, or at some percentage.
I think it's 50%.
Or 50%.
Yeah.
But that seems to take a while. It's like
But there's some
two or
talk
three.
about making that 100%.
Yes.
And also, I think the talk has to do with them paying directly rather than us getting reimbursed a year or two or
Right, yeah.
later.
And Steve Kulik is one of the proponents of that.
Yeah, that would go directly to the veterans agent, and
Yeah.
the town wouldn't have to be involved with that.
That will be lovely.
And it is really a great thing. The rest of the state really is looking at the Franklin region, at the way that we have a regional veterans agent. Almost every other town in the Commonwealth has its own veterans agent. So we do have a good deal, and they do work very hard. So again, on the final page is a projected Article 2. And again, the technical schools and the FERCog are both estimated figures. Not much I can do about that now. And again, this is only on the expense side of the ledger.
Okay.
That said, and with those few
Yeah. Very good, Tom, outstanding
changes.
work.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then for capital items, these are things that I've made notes about since I've gotten here. They're only requests, of course, at this point. They're in more, well, they're not They started off being in descending order of expense, but they didn't stay that way very long. The Board of Assessors, together with the Highway Department, would like to map the exact locations of public easements that the town has. So we have a couple of departments working together. This would be the first of several installments. This would not be a one-time thing. There's a lot of work to be done, and it's surveying, so we're talking professional fees here. The surveyor we've been working with is extremely good, gets all the historical data necessary to have these things finalized. Some of these would then have to be accepted by town meeting, but first we have to get the work done. This would be a several-year process at $15,000 a year. But again, we have at least 2 departments that are interested in having it done. A couple of more vehicles for the highway department. The superintendent can speak to those. I think it's a good idea to start putting aside money to pay the liability that we have, and we can pay it out for, I think, all but 1 employee very quickly this year, and then work out arrangements for that to be made between the treasurer and the employee as that goes on. But starting that process now, I would hope that we could set that money aside over 4 years so that it's not a big hit in any one year. Copier in the town office. There was one document that I copied for you today. You can see it's skewed. It's not even feeding well. Then they're not making parts for the copier anymore. So we've had it for a long time. It's been good, but they did warn us the last time they were here that the next time they came, they might not be able to repair it. So I think
It happens to those things.
that's time to replace it. And that's a top figure, 6,000, and I think that would also include a maintenance agreement.
Would the new copy machine allow us to get rid of the old fax machines?
Yes,
Yeah, great, that'll be a help.
and again, also to scan.
Great.
I put the planning board articles that they withdrew from the special town meeting on here just as placeholders. We need to pay off a debt incurred from not having a grant reimbursed for a dry hydrant. Board of Assessors, again, they have an installment plan for their revaluation. This would be part of that. Whenever we have debts incurred in past years, they have to be passed by town meeting, and we have a couple. One is for insurance, and one is for an employee's stipend. I put Wired West dues on here again. They've indicated that they are more than willing to go to bat for the towns that are trying to have broadband, whether or not they go through the Wired West system, which I think is great. They're really all for one and one for all there. So I put that on. They are in a position to advocate for this town's interests as well as the towns that have no cable. The fire chief had asked when he came in and met with the select board to have this item of a pumper considered. I know there's going to be discussion with the finance committee as to whether or not that needs to happen this year. I've not found out any indication of any requirement to have that done, and I did ask. I didn't get any response that there was a requirement, but that doesn't mean that there isn't. We'll need the usual ambulance money from stabilization to complement their budgetary request. I expect at least a couple of capital items from the Conway Grammar School, but they are meeting this Thursday night, and so I don't have those items here. And it shouldn't say Open Space Committee there, it should say Housing Committee. That's the conceptual design and cost estimate for senior housing on the Rose property, which they have made some progress towards, but don't yet have a figure. So those are the possible money items that I have heard of, totaling $335,000 roughly, which is a lot of money. We do have a lot of free cash, but again, we want to be careful and make prudent choices.
It says 375.
Ah, excellent. You have the new one. 375,000.
Yeah.
Yes, that's because I remembered to add something. So this is an old version.
okay.
Yours said, oh yeah, that's quite all right. Right,
Okay,
that would
great.
be the more accurate one. My apologies for that.
Thank you, Tom. Very good. Questions? Any questions?
Nope.
No?
Oh,
Very nice. We're making good progress on this.
And I will be working with Selectman Bean regarding also an internet or an IT warrant article that should fund what we thought we funded last time, which was a redevelopment of the website. We'd also like to include email hosting and probably IT support for the town in a package. And I'll be working with him on that, as well as a revised cost for internet based on going through MDI, which will be somewhat more expensive. Of course, we feel that ultimately the higher capacity will help us out. But it will be, the internet line will be going up substantially.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom.
All right, next item on the agenda is the Open Space Committee draft policy on Chapter 61A, right of first refusal process.
And I understood that they might not have somebody here tonight, so I said, as it says in the memo, they're looking, this was sent out at the very end of January, and they've given a number of committees 90 days to comment on this. And this is the process that the town would undergo, and it's rather complex, and it involves the coordination of a number of different bodies, committees, individuals, and that sort of thing. It looked to me fairly standard. I've used one of these before, and it looked very similar to it. I would urge you to read it through, and if you have any questions, let me know. I can get them to the Open Space Committee. They might want to come in and talk about it a little bit, but I gather that the town does not have anything like this, and there are legal requirements which these are meant to address, so it's a really good thing that they've been doing this, and it looks pretty good to me.
So they have put it out to a number of our committees for comment over the next 90 days. Okay.
And then they will come back to this board for final approval.
Right.
So you want to be sure to be able to have any questions that you have asked so that they can work it into any revisions before they come to you for their final approval.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. All right, so in the next month or so, we'll all take a good look at this and be ready for committee comments when they come to us.
Yeah, I read over it quickly.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agreement with Roselli Clark and Associates to do the 213 fiscal year 2013 audit that was approved at the special town meeting. I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with Roselli and Associates for a price of $13,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And for you to sign that thing.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the discussion of the pipeline.
Yeah, fellow Tim Corcoran came in last week, introduced himself. He's from Kinder Morgan. Actually, the NLS group working for them. He's got a Kinder Morgan email address. And as you see in the very front page, this is my reproduction from his very detailed maps of where a proposed natural gas pipeline would go. This is coming from New York, and it would end up in Dracut, which is inland, pretty much.
Yep.
Sort of northwest of Boston, almost at the New Hampshire border.
And basically, a lot of this route across Conway is in the power line easement.
It looks as though they tried to stick with that where they could. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen an overlay to be able to tell that exactly. But
Looks a lot like it to me.
he did come through and get the. He was looking for the addresses of the people who live, who own those properties, to go directly, I guess, to them. He did say he'd have more information in about a month for the town.
So they're
I've
in
given
their,
you what he gave me.
yeah, they're in their very early preliminary stages.
Yes, absolutely. They've been talking to other towns, and I guess there's been I guess they talked to Montague at least a couple of weeks ago. So there's been a lot of talk in that more populated town, and of course some people are concerned about it and that sort of thing. So it's generated a lot of talk there, and I bet it will generate some talk wherever it goes.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
just a heads up to you.
Okay.
Very good.
And who came in to talk about it?
It was this Tim Corcoran.
Tim Parker. Okay.
Yeah. And he's out of Agawam, the NLS group, working for the Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company, which is a division of Kinder Morgan.
Great. Thank you, Tom. All right, next item on the agenda is the warrant for the town caucus on March 3rd. Okay. Everything looks in order here. We have a number of spots coming up for re-election or to be filled. I'll make a motion that we sign the warrant for the annual Citizens Caucus to be held on Monday, March 3rd, 2014 at 8 p.m. in the town hall. Okay.
Second.
Do you have a
Second.
second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Is there a select board position coming up this year?
Yes, there is.
Ah. Oh, it's your turn now,
Yeah.
Mr. O'Rourke? Excellent.
Yeah.
I almost said something I shouldn't say. I forget the camera's on.
Be careful.
Just a joke. Just joking, John.
Serious business we have here, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, I will put a quick plug in because I know I've been to a number of the caucuses over the last few years. And I think like 3 years ago, we had a really hard time. You have to get at least 25 people there to have a quorum. And one year we were knocking on doors and going around
Yep.
to people at the Conway Inn. So I will throw out, if people are interested in coming to the caucus, and that's where we nominate people to run for office. And we have select board, we have a number of offices that are up for election, and hopefully people will come to the caucus and be a part of that process.
I say yes to that too. We shouldn't have to find people to get them to there.
Well, the good news is over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of interest in the races, so that has really garnered a lot of people. I think last time and the time before, we easily had a quorum.
Enough, yeah.
We still want more people to come because it's a great opportunity to participate in public government.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Tom, do you have an update for us? Thank you.
A couple of departmental notes. The highway superintendent has decided, after receiving cost estimates, to sell the total pickup truck for parts instead of repairing it. He still expects us to get more money than we would have by taking Maya's offer to take the truck. Treasurer and I are looking at the septic system repair program, a revolving fund, and note that it currently has a 3% interest rate. According to the Housing Authority, which manages the program, the Select Board can determine that rate. Interest rates are currently at historic lows, and there is little or no inflation, but that will of course change as the economy improves. I'm soliciting Select Board member input, perhaps over the next week or two, to help judge whether we should pursue changing the rate. Please let me know your thoughts on that. For the budget items, I covered all of those in the budget discussion. I'll also note that there is currently no bylaws committee. There will be requests for bylaws changes or additions on the annual town meeting warrant. At the moment, there are no members of the bylaws committee. I suggest the select board either consider naming members or set aside time for select board consideration of proposed bylaws so that any proposed bylaws can be appropriately reviewed prior to town meeting. I think if there's something as important as a bylaw, the select board ought to make sure that there's some public discussion beforehand, not just the pre-town meeting thing, but some broader, more time for people to think about those sorts of things.
Okay.
Also, there's a meeting of the Small Town Administrators of Massachusetts on Thursday, which I plan to attend. The major topic to be covered is the status of medical marijuana, which I will also add as a topic of the upcoming planning board, one of the topics of the upcoming planning board bylaws hearing, which will come up in the announcements too.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we have some mail from the town of Charlemont. And it's directed to the Board of Selectmen. And they are thanking us because we apparently donated a receiving box for telephones to the Highway and Police Department in Charlemont. Paul Mervine was involved in the installation of that, I believe. Did you?
Yeah,
is
that's
that part of
our
what
technology.
we cleared out downstairs?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No use to us,
Selectman
and
B.
we could use it.
Very good.
Thank you.
So we've helped the town of Charlemont now, and they've written this nice letter to
Right.
us.
And now they owe us. So remember, Charlemont, when we come to you and have some old piece of equipment that you don't need.
Couple of announcements. Okay. Tomorrow evening, in the general purpose room of the town hall between 6 and 8 p.m., there will be a meeting held by the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to discuss the new forest designation. That's tomorrow evening, February 11th, from 6 to 8 in the general purpose room of the town hall. Also, planning bylaw changes. There'll be a public hearing on February 27th, at 7 PM in the town hall to discuss proposed changes in the town's protective bylaws. We also have Shelburne Falls Area Business Association has provided its 2014 scholarship application form. Copies are available outside the town administrator's office at town offices, 32 Main Street. Deadline for submission is April the 1st. Regional waste days for 2014 are now posted on the town website. Okay. Any other announcements by the board?
None.
None, okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for, now, the 17th is a holiday, Tom. Do you want to do?
It's supposed to be the 24th. The finance committee is going to be meeting on the 17th.
Okay, so our next meeting is the 24th. Okay. Okay.
And that may or may not be a joint meeting or part of it with the finance committee,
Okay.
with budgetary matters.
Okay, if there are no other items to come before this board, I will make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.